welcome back. Barry Edwards for Hear It Now. I am joined by a great athlete, a great human being, and my friend and co-host, Keith McCants. For those who do not know Keith McCants was a All-American consensus linebacker from the University of Alabama, and I've been told it's called to say Alabama. And after that, he was a first-round draft pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1990, and he played for the Houston Oilers and Arizona Cardinals, and we will hopefully be reading about him in a nice article if anybody's listening from ESPN in the near future. We want to thank the Buffalo Bills Backer Club of St. Pete. So there is a large contingent of people that like the Buffalo Bills. My parents were from Rochester, New York, so they always liked the Buffalo Bills also. I guess you didn't have enough room up there in New York for that. So Keith, you played. You're older or younger than Cornelius?
Actually, I'm younger than Cornelius Bennett, and I had the privilege to follow his footsteps. Him along with Derek Thomas, and just two great linebackers that I had the privilege to.
Derek Thomas is in Alabama.
No, Derek Thomas is actually from Miami. He's deceased now. Yeah,
okay. He was also a great linebacker.
Yeah, he was. He was one of the best I've ever seen. And he came behind Cornelius Bennett, and I came behind Derek Thomas, and the three linebackers that set Alabama on the high standard for linebackers.
Now, you're 6'3"?
6'4".
6'4",
yeah.
And you weighed 240 when you were playing?
Yeah, 240.
And so Cornelius is about the same size?
Yeah, 6'2", 6'3".
Okay,
yeah.
But he weighed about the same weight?
Yeah.
So he's a little stockier?
Yeah.
So that's pretty big for college football back then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, but the speed that this guy had, that Cornelius had, and myself is set aside from any normal linebacker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at Jack Ham was 6'1" and played at 225.
Yeah, times have changed.
So speed, he played at 225. What's the linebacker in the NFL weight today?
Today, they're anywhere from like 235, 245. You know what I'm saying? You got to be kind of stocky enough to stop the run, and also have enough agility to stick a running back or a tight end down the seam. So you know what I'm saying? It's versatile. When you get a linebacker like Cornelius Bennett and myself that's big, can be able to maneuver, stick linebackers, tight ends, plus stop the run. You got yourself a complete package.
What is Lawrence Taylor considered the greatest linebacker of all time?
Yeah, he is. But in my book, I said Derek Thomas. There's so many great linebackers that came out since then, and Lawrence Taylor, he's just a beast. He was in a league of his own.
What? No. Was he as fast as you guys, or just incredibly tough?
He just tough. He was mentally and physically tough, and he take a game to another level. And when you get a defensive player who was able to do that, you're talking about a franchise player. And Cornelius and Derek Thomas and Lawrence Taylor, they was that quality of player.
Now, have you ever met I guess some of the other great linebackers, Dick Butkus, for instance?
No, I never had a chance to meet him, but I was up for the run-up at Butkus Award, and I refused to go to it. And
now, why did you refuse?
I was just tired. I was traveling all over the country and picking up awards, accepting awards, doing this and doing that. I was CBS Player of the Year, and I just was burnt out. And I was a run-up against Percy Snow, which actually won the Butkus Award.
Oh, now another great linebacker, Jack Lambert. Did you ever get to meet him?
No, I didn't. I wish I would have.
Now, he used to have like a missing tooth.
Yeah, he did. He hit so hard he knocked his own teeth out.
He knocked his own teeth out. So that they say there's a football IQ. So is that so? I like to be deliberative, and I'm very risk intensive, but I also play game theory. I don't ever want to. I want to minimize my maximum risk. So when you're out there, you just have to be reckless with your body, don't you?
Yeah, you can't go half speed. If you go half speed, you're gonna get hurt.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You got,
So
you
hitting
got to-
softer is actually harder on your body?
Yeah. Not only that, somebody gonna hit you hard enough to knock you out. So when you tense yourself up and you go in full speed, you're just like you're pretty much protecting yourself, and that's where weightlifting and all that stuff come in play, because the people misconcept thing of lifting weights and taking steroids and stuff like that. Actually, lifting weights is to just prevent injuries. And
wow.
And then if you do get hurt, you work around and you still continue to live, and you build up the muscles around the injuries and continue to play.
Now, you said you started out at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
With stadiums, you said, I guess.
Yeah, running stadium steps, pushing the truck around the campus and stuff of that nature.
So, did you ever watch the great Sylvester Stallone movie Rocky IV, where he's in Siberia? And so the Russian athlete has got all these weights, these equipment, this Nautilus equipment, and every muscle is isolated so he can get each thing in perfect balance. Whereas Rocky is out there with a sled of deer and people on it, and he's got a rope, and he's pulling it along, or he's pulling himself up a rope. Which do you like, the scientific or the just brute, just go and do it?
I just like to go and do it. That's the natural way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's like that's the way they did it in the old days, and it seemed like it pay out better.
Now, obviously, I can tell that he did not do steroids, because you look at his skin. His skin is still great. He must not have drank too much in college either.
Nah.
For this, is steroid, if people that use steroids, is it give them a short-term boost? Or, I know there's a lot of long-term physical, but they test for that now in NFL and college, right?
Yeah, they does. And Lala Zeta, that played for the Oakland Raiders, he was one of the guys who suffered from that the steroid use. And steroid does give you a boost, it give you an edge. People use it in track. A guy named Ben, ran against Carl Lewis. I can't think his name.
Ben Johnson?
Ben Johnson, yeah. Ben Johnson. He gave him the edge to win in the Olympics and stuff of that nature, and then he tested positive for it.
But a lot of those guys in their 40s and 50s start to have a lot of health problems.
Yes, they do. They do. It's a wear and tear on the body, and it attack the organs, and it's worse than a street drug.
Now, you weighed 240 when you left Alabama.
Yeah.
How much did you weigh when you started your first NFL season?
250.
250. Oh, that's okay. So you didn't do that to me. We are going to be joined momentarily by the great linebacker, Buffalo's greatest linebacker, Cornelius Bennett, and your fellow Alabamian. Welcome, Cornelius Bennett. Cornelius, can you hear us?
I can, yes. How's it going?
Hey, Cornelius, how you doing, brother?
I'm all right. What's going on there, Brother McCants?
I can't call him a man. I was in your neck of the woods a few months ago, man. I went to your church.
Yeah?
Yeah. Met your brother. I met your brother.
Okay.
And your sister.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That sounds good. Man. Ain't nothing wrong with going to church.
I know. How's it been going, man? What are you doing nowadays?
I'm chilling. I live down I'm across the water from you. I'm in South Florida, so I'm across Alligator Alley from you.
Okay, then. Well, we got to get a chance to get together and do some things, man.
Now, Mr. Bennett, I'm going to call you Mr. Bennett out of respect, even though you're not much older than me. Your son's playing tomorrow against the Gators, right?
Yeah, he's in his third year. He's a redshirt sophomore at Tennessee. Yeah.
Now, what position does he play?
Take a good guess.
You got to be linebacker like his daddy.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I should have known he's going to be a linebacker like Daddy. Now, the only thing, you're from Alabama, aren't you? Birmingham?
I'm from Birmingham, yeah.
How could your son go? Isn't Tennessee a big rival?
For if you're a football player, it is. But I mean, we live in South Florida, and he made a decision that he wanted to go play right, or he wanted to play football. He didn't want to sit on the bench, and wait 2 or 3 years to play, because he didn't know how long he wanted to play football. So he's he's a student first. He's a very smart kid. Got skipped a year, growing up in school, and he didn't know if he wanted to, make football a career like I did. He just wanted to. While he loved playing football, he wanted to continue playing And Tennessee gave him opportunity to come in and play as a 17-year-old freshman. He played in, 5 or 6 games as a 17-year-old freshman, including in Tuscaloosa 3 years ago. So, everything is going well for him. And my life is my life, and I try to let him live his.
Well, that sounds like a very good father. Now, you're going to go to You're going to go to Gainesville tomorrow for the game?
Yeah. It's a fairly short drive for us, about 5.5, 6-hour drive for us coming up from Miami. But I put on the orange and white. Anything you do anything for your children, and I'd be damned. Anybody that has anything to say about me putting on orange and white, I'll put on pink and white if I have to.
I love it. Now, I'm going to be a little mean to you and Keith here. I was asking who were the most famous players, and your name comes up as one of the famous players of the Tide, but apparently the most famous player ever is Joe Namath. Did you ever get to interact with him?
Yeah, quite a bit. I haven't seen Joe in a couple of years, but I should be seeing him. I think sometime towards the end of either middle next month or sometime at a golf tournament. Yeah, Joe is. I mean, he's Broadway Joe. He's not only the most famous Alabama football player, he's still one of the most famous football players in history of football, college football and pro football. So, I don't, and the first, and then second part of that, I don't really think much about that. I can guarantee you Keith probably feels the same way, Yeah. It's good to be mentioned, but I don't lose no sleep over stuff I can't, I have no control over.
That's right.
Now, tell us about, you had a nickname. I'm going to give it back to Keith after this. Biscuit. What is that? Why would you call Biscuit in college and high school?
Well, Keith can tell you about nicknames in black families. Everybody in the black family has a nickname, and Biscuit just happens to be mine. It has really nothing to do with eating biscuits or anything, but people have made stories. My mom, I love my mom biscuit. I love all my mom food. So, I mean, it could have been anything, but, just a, Southern black family nickname.
And it sounds like you're still involved with your church.
No doubt about it. I love my church. Well, actually, down in South Florida, I'm going through a process of becoming a deacon in the church, and that's something that's one of the most proudest things in my life that I'm trying to accomplish. Being held accountable for being a man of Christ.
So you were a role model on the field, and now you're a role model in your community. That's wonderful.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. It's every day and every hour something comes at you different, and trying to be stand upish and face it head on. It takes a great deal of intestinal fortitude, I guess, to be the best way to say it.
That's awesome. Hey, Cornelius, man, I'm telling you, you're one of the greatest linebackers. I looked up to you and learned a lot from you, just sitting on the sideline watching you. And I want to elaborate, talk about how did you felt when doing being 5 Pro Bowls and going to 5 Super Bowls, and I think you should have been in the Hall of Fame. I think
you're on the ballot this year, right?
Yeah, I know you're on the ballot, but I really think you should have been in the Hall of Fame. And,
well, no doubt.
But let's talk about the 5 Pro Bowls you went to. How did it? I never went to a Pro Bowl, so how did it feel to go to the Pro Bowl, man?
Well, it was, the first 3 or 4 was voted on before they started letting fans vote. Was voted on by players and coaches, which was the most gratifying out of the 5. Because it was definitely your peers and your coaches, people that you've coached and played against were judging you. And so that, that made it extra special. And, they allowed the fans to start voting soon thereafter. And it became just just like the NBA All-Star, you got your legit All-Stars and then you got fan favorites every year. And that's how the Pro Bowl has become in the NFL. So after that, I think I should have made the Pro Bowl, 3 or 4 more times. But I went from a small market in Buffalo, and then went to Atlanta, changed conferences, and my second and third year in Atlanta, where I think I had, two of my great, better years, and both years in Indianapolis, my last 2 years, I definitely should have made it again. But I went back to a small market, and you just get overlooked.
Yeah.
You just get overlooked. But it was a great, something. It's great. It's a great honor. And as far as the Hall of Fame, I don't toot my own horn much, Keith. I was never that kind of guy, but I definitely feel like I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
No doubt.
I feel like I should have been, if not a first ballot, the second year. But it is what it is, man. And I can't go back out and play no more. We old men now, and I just cheer my son on and not worry about, again, things that I can't handle. I can't control it, so I try not to worry about it.
That's okay, man. But I tell you what, you're a Hall of Fame in my book, brother. You're a Hall of Fame. Not just because we went to the same school, we played the same position, and you one of my idols. But you were one of you're a Hall of Fame in my book. You, Derek Thomas, and I'll tell you what, I look up to you, man. I'm so proud of you and stuff, becoming a deacon and stuff like that in his life after football.
I tell you what, can I compliment you? I want to hear from you. Last week, the week before, and to see the strides that you've made with your life. I am so proud of you, more than you will ever know, brother. I know the struggles, and I know, you've had, some hard times. I've kept up with you. Believe it or not, when I was very active with the Players Association, Andre Collins and I would have great dialogue about you. So I've always been in your corner and always prayed for you. And I know your grandmother's always told you, you never know who's praying for you. Well, I was one of those people that was praying for you.
That's all right, man. That's good to hear, man. I know it's a lot of Alabama players and fans out there that's rooting for me and praying for me. I thank everybody out there. And I tell you, yes, it has been a struggle, man. But without the struggles, you know what I'm saying, I have gone through, there's nothing to look forward to. I'll be able to share my experience with other people.
Oh, no doubt about it, man.
So after I just wrote a book on these called My Ducks Out of the NFL, and now what I do, I go and I give testimonies, and I talk about my book, and I just give the testimony of churches, colleges, high school. This is one of the things that I do, and just to give back to the community of the success that I have done outside of football.
We're going to take a quick break and continue. If we can get Mr. Bennett to hold on, we're going to take a quick commercial break and come back. And I wanted to talk a little bit about your book with him, but also the NFL, but also I want to talk about the great coaches you had when you were at the University of Alabama and how you got recruited. Barry Edwards and Keith McCants back in one moment with Cornelius Bennett. Welcome back. Barry Edwards for Hear It Now with my Friday co-host, Keith McCants. You can hear us on the AM dial at 820 AM, FM at 96.7 or 98.3, or live stream us on WWBA or NewsTalkFlorida. We are joined by one of the great linebackers of NFL history. Both Keith, as you know, and now you know that Cornelius were Alabama. But we want Keith, when we come back, do a shout out. We have the Bills backers of St. Pete. Would love to hear you say hi.
Hey, what's going on up there? Wow, I tell you what, the Bills fans are everywhere. They are everywhere, man. They are everywhere.
Now, when you were your first year coach, were you the last recruiting class of Bear Bryant or Ray Perkins?
I was Coach Bryant recruited me. Coach Bryant resigned. Coach Perkins took over. And so I was Coach Bryant's last and Coach Perkins' first and only recruiting as far as his first class. So my 4 years were all Ray Perkins' 4 years.
Okay, so tell us about, was Paul Bryant really just that great?
Well, I'm calling him Coach Bryant. I'm calling him Paul Bryant, so I'm calling him Coach Bryant. Coach Bryant was an amazing person. I actually had a chance, being recruited, my junior year, a chance to sit and talk with Coach Bryant, I think 3 or 4 different times, and I may have been the last in-home visit that he did. If I don't know, but I'm thinking by me being in Birmingham, I may have been his last in-home visit, and of course he didn't know at the time that he was ill, but At that particular time, he was a man of few words. You know, I think all he said to my mother and father was that, I want your son to come play for me at the University of Alabama. And after he said that, Coach Donahue, who was the recruiting coordinator and who recruited me, did all the talking. And Coach Bryan sat in the chair, and if I'm not mistaken, fell asleep.
In your living room.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Sitting in the lime green chair in my mom's living room. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty. So, what did he tell you that made you think that you wanted to go to? Was there any chance that you would have gone to Auburn?
Well, I have a good story behind that, but what Coach Bryan said, I want you to come play for me at the University of Alabama. and as far as the Auburn thing, Coach Dye had a little bit of Coach Bryan in him, and Coach Dye and I, we developed a real good relationship during recruiting. Actually, we still have a real good relationship to this day. We see each other. You would think that I played for Coach Dye if you saw us interact. And for a brief moment after going down to Auburn, I committed to Auburn for a brief moment, and it didn't last long. But my mom and dad, they weren't having that. It was Alabama all the way in our house. But yeah, Coach Dye was a great recruiter, and for a brief moment, as a 17-year-old kid, man, people start talking to you and telling you stuff you want to hear.
Yeah.
You have a tendency to to lean that way. Yeah.
Now Ray Perkins coached for the Bucks, and he wasn't all that popular here. His top tenure at Alabama wasn't all that great, was it?
I thought we had, believe it or not, if you go back and look at the teams I was on at Alabama, we had some of the most productive players at the next level. Until now, this thing with Saban is doing, but we had some good teams, and my senior year, I think we won 10 ball games. So we just it was just transition.
Right.
Going from the greatest to, and changing offense, so, you went from a wishbone offense to a pro style offense. You got to have the bullets in the chamber when you want to do something like that. We had my freshman year, I think we ended up having about 16 freshmen play throughout my freshman year. So
wow.
We had some talented guys. It just was a transition, and I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world. People like, you didn't win a SEC championship or a national championship. Hey, man, life ain't always peaches and cream, So, the lessons I learned helped make me the person I am today.
Yeah. I mean, my experience playing in the SEC is one of the toughest conference there is, and you have you got to suit up every week to go and play. And the schedule is like it's like NFL. Anybody can be beat on any given day.
No doubt, and then especially when you wearing the crimson and white, everybody want to beat you every weekend. So that was a little extra as well.
Yeah, Cornelius, one thing stick out of my mind is when you became one of my heroes, that the tit you put on the Notre Dame quarterback.
Oh, I talked about it in the promo. There's actually a painting of that called the Sack.
Yeah. Man, it was, Keith, we both made some big plays in our career, man. And it was just another play to me, during the game, all I cared about was making things happen to help our team win.
I know.
I had no idea that Daniel Moore would be there. I didn't even know who Daniel Moore was.
I know.
But that painting, that painting has kept my name alive in Alabama football history outside of me playing. But everywhere I go, I meet people, and I guarantee you, I've met 200,000 people that say they were at that game that day, and Lisa still on the seat at about 70,000, but I've met about 200,000. So it's a great thing, man.
Yeah, it is.
And you see people and they talk about it. It's always good to be remembered.
Playing at the University of Alabama, you know how it is in the state of Alabama. You consider man among boys when you play for the University of Crimson Tide.
Right.
So that was a great thing that we both experienced, that we have gone through and stuff of that nature.
Now, Keith asked you what it was like to play in the Pro Bowls. What's headier, to go to a Super Bowl or the Pro Bowl? Or are they just different?
The Super Bowl, you know, the Pro Bowl was just, to me, that was just something that you got rewarded for, you know, for individual play. But, you know, as a team player, and I always was a team player, the Super Bowl, because that was the ultimate goal for the team. You know, all the other stuff, all the other accolades, that was just something that, you know, people sing you out for. But the way I was taught and you know, the way we were taught at Alabama is all about the team. So it was always team first, and playing in the Super Bowl, that was the ultimate team goal. And my relationships with former teammates from Buffalo and Atlanta, you know, that's something that's something that we all share for the rest of our lives together. You know, my Pro Bowl stuff is just something that was just for me. You know, so I had to share that with my kids or my wife. But the Super Bowl, regardless of whether or not I won or lost, is something I share with those other 50-something guys that was on the team with me.
There you go.
Now, do you get a ring if you finish second in the Super Bowl?
Yes. Yeah, I have 4 AFC championship rings and 1 NFC championship ring. Yes.
Oh, so you played both in the AFC and the NFC.
Yeah.
Is there a difference anymore between the two conferences?
As far as
like how they play, is like one more like Ohio State?
Oh, as far as, well, you know, when I was younger, the NFC was, you know, I guess especially in Chicago, you know, the East, there was the black and blue division. But football now, it's kind of all the same. You know, it's a lot of throwing, a little running. You know, quarterbacks are throwing the ball, you know, sometimes 45, 50 times a game, you know, on average. So, yeah, it's changed tremendously. But for me, I think, and Keith, he can attest to this as well, you know, it's a safer football game as far as, you know, not getting beat up so much. You know, the injuries that Keith and I sustained while we were playing, you know, we've tried to negate those as far as health and safety is concerned. And I think the game is a little bit safer game. Of course, people say it's a soft game now, but
yeah,
the evolution of football has, you know, I think it's been great, and it's been great from a spectator standpoint as well.
No, absolutely. We're going to take our final break, advertising break. We're going to come back in 3 minutes finish up with Cornelius Bennett, the one of the great linebackers of history. And any sports writer out there that has a vote, you need to vote for him.
That's right.
Tell him again.
That's right.
Tell him again. We'll be back with Barry Edwards and Keith McCants in just a moment. Welcome back. Barry Edwards for Here and Now with my Friday co-host, Keith McCants, the great All-American from the University of Alabama, and he was the 4th pick in his draft for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we are joined by one of the greatest linebackers of all time, and hopefully future Pro Bowler, Cornelius Bennett. Again, a shout-out to the Bills backers of St. Pete. You were number 2 in the draft. Vinny Testaveri was number 1. Teams are built on defense, though, aren't they? Leroy Selman, who I got to meet and become friends with here, was the first-round draft pick of the Bucs. Were you disappointed not being number 1?
Not really. I was more disappointed, you know, because Coach Perkins, who was my coach, who I just, you know, finished playing for a few months earlier, decided to take a quarterback. But, you know, they thought Benny was a franchise quarterback, you know, and, you know, when there's a franchise quarterback out there, coaches have a tendency, and Coach Perkins being an offensive-minded player, coach, that's what he saw, and that's what he went after. And I would tease him all the time, you know, about the decision he made. How could he go? You know, he didn't go wrong with me at Alabama, you know, and he decided, you know, maybe it was out of his hands, maybe it was Mr. Cloverhouse at the time making the decision. But yeah, we've had some laughs about it. I think his tenure would have been longer had he drafted me and then turned around a couple of years later and got Keith. I mean, that would have been two nice bookends.
Yeah, it would have been. That would have been great.
And I've just been corrected by one of our listeners that you are a future Hall of Famer. You already have been a Pro Bowler, and you are already in the College Hall of Fame, correct?
Yes, I went in the College Hall of Fame in 2005. Yeah. Oh, and Keith, your number should be coming up for that award.
Well,
I don't see how you're not in the College Hall of Fame.
Well, I'm hoping so. I've been praying for it. One of my big dreams. I can't make the NFL Hall of Fame, but I'm looking forward to making the College Hall of Fame. I think I was there when they inducted into the Hall of Fame, Cornelius. I think I was at the game.
Yeah.
I was there. Yeah.
No. It was I tell you what, it's a great honor, and you think all the millions of kids that have played college football, the number is astounding. The number of guys that have been selected, it's amazing to be included in that number, man. So I'm pulling for you, and if I have some influence, I definitely mention it because what you did. Not many cats get a chance to be named All-American now,
I know that's right.
We did special work that time.
Yeah, we did.
Now you were a Lombardi Trophy, and I just found in the Heisman, you were the 7th, you came in 7th in the Heisman, but you won the Lombardi Award. Is Lombardi a more defensive player?
Actually, I was the first non-defensive lineman to win it. I was the first linebacker to win it in the history of the award.
Oh.
And the Heisman, I finished 7th in the Heisman without any kind of push from the university. I think, because defensive players outside of Hugh Green before me hadn't had really a chance to win the Heisman Trophy. And I think if the university had pushed a little bit harder, I probably could have finished. I don't know if I would have won it because Testaverde ended up winning it. I think I could have finished in the top, inside the top 5 for the Heisman my senior year. It was a special time, but again, that's a lifetime ago, man. That's a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it is.
I just celebrated my 54th birthday a few weeks back. So that's a lifetime ago, man.
Now, I've talked to Keith a lot about this, and he was bringing up the safety. Is the equipment better, or is it the rules about how you can tackle that football is safer?
Both. But as far as from a helmet standpoint, no matter if you could put your head and anything, but the brain that's between the brain and the skull, but except fluid, So as far as the helmets are concerned, I don't know if they could ever make a helmet safe enough for contact, contact sports, because the brain is still going to get slammed against the skull. But it's definitely a safer game. The equipment is definitely, it's better, high tech stuff. A ballistic kind of, material, what have you. But as far as injuring football, as long as you have contact sport, you're going to have, some injuries and sometimes catastrophic injuries. So what we've done, when I say we, when I was very active with our Players Association, especially in NFL, was try to, get the coaches to change the culture of football as far as practicing is concerned, knowing that if we changed it in the NFL, it would matriculate down through college and high school and pee-wee football, getting away from all those one-on-one heavy-hitting drills, the old Oklahoma drill and all those things like that, because all that extra contact and practice, to me and Keith to tell you, that stuff was useless to us. It just was a lot of noise being made, and I think the coaches got off on it more than the players. We hated it. We hated doing all of that. Yeah.
So we are joined by one of the great and hopefully future Hall of Famers, Cornelius Bennett. And at my left, I have my Friday co-host, Keith McCants, who is also a great linebacker. And he was a consensus All-American three or four times at the University of Alabama. So if I'm understanding this from both of you, it's not the helmet. It's when you're hitting somebody because you're so big and so fast that your brain is shaking around in your skull. Is that where the damage is coming?
That's exactly. That's it. 100%. That's it. No matter what kind of helmets you provide, some are tested safer than others, but at the end of the day, the brain is slamming into whiplash, just like the car accident. The brain is slamming into the side of the skull, and so there's nothing you could do to put anything in between the skull and the brain. So that's where the concussions come from. And again, the way you try to limit those, because they're gonna happen, is the culture of the game, making it safer. Less hitting and the targeting with the helmet and teaching kids good fundamentals as far as tackling is concerned. Yeah.
Fundamentals and technique and And then people that try to take them kill shots and stuff like that, it's devastating. And it's going to happen in football, especially for a defensive player or for free safety got a shot on a guy. Yeah, you're going to take it because you like the oohs and the ahs and you want that recognition and you want to be heard. And it's just a natural part of the game.
Now, what's a blind side? And I've been corrected that I called you a good linebacker. You were a great linebacker in your career. What is a blind side tackle? So if I'm the quarterback and I'm right-handed, I drop back, and I got my right foot back and my left foot forward, ready to throw. How do I get blindsided? Is that from behind?
That's from behind.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the guy coming up. That'll be the guy coming up from his left side. Well, his blind side. Yeah. Will be his left side. That'll be unprotected. Yeah.
Well, and how is he unprotected? The equipment's the same, isn't it? I guess I don't understand why it's worse.
Unprotected because nobody blindsided. That means somebody missed the block.
Oh.
So he don't have any protection from the lineman, not the equipment. It's not the equipment. It's the person that missed the block. Yeah, that's one of those block, a lookout block.
Yeah.
Now, did you? What was your 40-yard dash? A 4.3, 4.4, 4.2?
Not that fast. I was for a 235, 40-pound guy. I was very fast. I ran when I was timed by the pros. I was like 4.45, 4.46. So
wow.
that was running back and receiver speed back in my time.
Now, you could have been, and you were in high school, you played running back, right?
Right. I played a little bit of everything, but I got my notoriety from playing running back, yeah.
So why did you choose to be a defensive player rather than an offensive player when you could have done both?
Well, so this is part of recruiting. So coaches will tell you anything, again, like I was telling the story about Coach Dye. The coaches will tell you anything to get you to commit.
Right.
And going into Alabama my freshman year, Coach Perkins like, how about we're going to let's try linebacker, running back, tight end. After my first practice at linebacker, Coach Perkins said I was the next Lawrence Taylor, and I had no idea who Lawrence Taylor was at that time or anything. But as they say, I guess the rest is history. I mean, he knew better than I did. So what I'm saying is really a lot of times in college football, you really don't have a chance. It's coaches make decisions, and I should have been how they classify kids now as athlete when they're recruiting. That's how I should have been classified, as an athlete and not as a running back or a tight end or a linebacker, because I was very versatile in high school. I punted, I could kick off, I could quarterback, receiver. I did a little bit of it all in my 4 years of high school.
You never thought about being a high school or a college, and that for you too, Keith. You guys never wanted to be coaches?
No, I didn't want. No. I had
enough of it.
I had the opportunity as soon when I retired to take a coaching job, and I, politely declined, and I haven't looked back on it at all. Yeah, I had enough of football. When I retired, I was done. I hardly, like when people with my son playing, man, I tried to have as much, as little input as possible. I try to let him, enjoy his life, and I just rode off into the sunset and enjoyed myself.
Now, but Keith, you have a great personality. It seems like you'd be a good front office guy, or you, Cornelius. You never wanted to do that part of football either?
No. When I left, I'm pretty much done with it, and I very seldom watch it unless Alabama come on. So
I'm the same way. And you can ask most of us old football players, man. We watch very little football. I am the same. If my son's not playing or Alabama's not on TV, I'd rather be playing golf or doing something else than sitting in the house watching football. And as far as so what I did when I got out of football, because I had gotten into being a union rep for my team, my last couple of teams, I did a lot of work with our Players Association to make sure guys were being treated fairly, as far as especially former players. I was the chairman with our former players board of directors for 2 different terms, and
wow.
A lot of them,
that's pretty impressive. Yeah. They're a great union.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that you saw happening during the last collective bargaining agreement that was attributed to former players, I had a hand in it, especially like Keith knows about the trust and all the other things that are available for former players, the legacy benefit that we created that was providing almost $900 million to former players. So I had a big hand in doing that.
Now, Keith, and why don't you get Cornelius talk about this? Your book, The Dark Side of the NFL.
Oh
Why'd you
yeah,
write
I want
that?
to tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a book that's reflect on my past and the struggles that I have gone through and how I was able to come out of it. And what it is not bashing the NFL, but it's educating people about football in general, and with things that what not to do and all the mistakes that I made. It's really is an eye opener, and on every different level. So because I have lived on every different level.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And so it's actually to reach out and help those who need that are struggling, who need a helping hand, or to encourage, inspire, and motivate people who need to hear something that they have gone through, or that they've gone through. So all from the drugs, being homeless, reminiscent of prostitutes, the whole 9 yards.
For Cornelius Bennett for the Hall of Fame of the NFL.
That's right.
Thank you, Cornelius. Have a great weekend in Gainesville.
All right, love you, brother.
Thank you, guys. Hey, love you too, bro. Be good.
All right, you too.
Back in a minute.